The man everyone ignored at the train station wore a frayed coat and always fed the pigeons. But when a runaway rail car broke from the track and barreled toward a crowded platform, he sprinted straight into its path, diverting the switch manually. The crowd watched in shock. One conductor whispered, "That's not a homeless man. That's a rail-trained combat engineer." Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to like the video. Most days, people at Marlow Junction stepped around the old man without seeing him. He sat on the same bench every morning, fed the pigeons with breadcrumbs from his jacket pocket, spoke to no one, eyes always on the tracks. Commuters gave him nicknames: Switchboard Stan, The Watcher, Crazy Carl. None of them knew his real name. Kids teased. Teens rolled their eyes. Adults ignored. The only person who ever brought him coffee was Nora, the platform attendant. She worked the 5 a.m. shift, wore 2 wristwatches, and had the kind of heart that noticed forgotten things. "Morning," she'd say, setting a small cup beside him. He'd nod, murmur thanks, then go back to staring at the rails like they were telling him secrets. On Tuesday, everything changed. A maintenance error led to brake failure on a freight car 3 miles up track. The car wasn't loaded, but it was heavy and fast. A conductor tried to radio in. The station staff didn't get the alert in time. Nora was checking tickets when she felt the vibration, low, unnatural. Then came the sound, a roar like thunder and steel. The runaway car tore down the main line, aiming straight for a platform already filling with passengers for the 7:30 commuter. Screams erupted. People scattered. Nora reached for the emergency button, but the lights didn't change. And that's when the old man moved. He dropped his bread, bolted down the service stairs like a man 20 years younger, past the fence, into the restricted switchyard. Security shouted. No one could stop him. He reached an old manual lever, the kind phased out years ago. He pulled it, hard. And just before the freight roared past, the tracks shifted, enough to send it down the empty maintenance line. The train missed the platform by inches. Dust and gravel rained down. People coughed, stared, and the man, he just sat down again, back on the bench, as if nothing had happened. Emergency crews flooded in. Nora rushed toward him, eyes wide. "Sir, how did you know? How did you do that?" He looked up slowly and said, "Because I helped design this station." Then quietly added, "A long time ago, before they stopped remembering." That night, #Platform3 trended online. But still, no one knew his name. By the next morning, news vans lined the streets outside Marlow Junction. Most came for quotes. Some came for hero shots. All came with the same question: who was the man from Platform 3? But when they got there, he was already gone. Nora scanned the platforms. Nothing. No coat. No crumbs. No trace. She checked with dispatch. The only record was from a security log 3 years ago, when a complaint had been filed about a vagrant loitering near the junction. No full name. No ID. Just a line. Says he used to be someone. That day, Nora did something she hadn't done in years. She opened the records room. Buried in a dusty file marked Marlow Renovation, 1984, she found a memo with hand-drawn diagrams, switch layouts, track architecture, and at the bottom, a name: Douglas R. Kinney, Field Lead Engineer, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, RET. She froze. Later that afternoon, a young reporter, Casey Lang, saw Nora holding the file. "You know who he is?" Nora hesitated, then nodded once. "Don't say anything yet," she said. "He deserves more than another headline." Meanwhile, Douglas Kinney, if that was his name, walked 3 miles to a quiet veterans' shelter on East Halley Street. The manager greeted him with a nod. "No one bothering you, Doug?" "No," he replied. "They just remembered. Want us to say you're not here." Doug considered it. Then, no. Maybe it's time they knew. That evening, a former Army rail specialist named Dean Harlow saw the viral footage on his niece's phone. "That's Kinney," he said aloud. "No doubt." His niece frowned. "You know him?" Everybody knew him. He built bridges in Nam under live fire, laid track through ambush zones, saved my whole unit by detonating a failed supply line. Man was a walking map. He posted a comment on the video. "That's not a janitor. That's Chief Engineer Kinney. If you know, you know." The post exploded. Old servicemen replied. Engineers. Foreign liaisons. Stories poured in. "He taught me how to reroute in a blackout." He could tell a rail's age by the sound it made under his boots. I once saw him rewire a junction with 2 wires and a fork. By nightfall, Kinney wasn't a mystery. He was a legend. But not in Marlow. In Marlow, he was still just the man on the bench, until a child approached him on Wednesday morning, holding a toy train. "Were you the one who saved us?" Doug looked at the boy, smiled. "I just remembered where the track used to go. Some people save lives not with weapons, but with memory. If someone's knowledge once kept you safe, type thank you in the comments. Let's give credit to wisdom that never fades." On Thursday, the mayor called a press conference. It wasn't for the cameras. It was to find the man who'd saved 50 lives and then vanished into the crowd. Nora watched from the platform office, arms crossed. When asked to speak, she refused. If you want to thank him, sweep the tracks he never stopped watching. But later that day, Doug Kinney walked back into Marlow Junction. No security escorted him. No press cameras chased him. He just sat on his usual bench and fed the pigeons like nothing had changed. Except everything had. People stared. Some waved. One conductor nodded sharply and whispered, "Sir." Doug barely reacted. But he noticed. Across the tracks, 2 men in suits stood too still. Watching. They didn't wear badges. Didn't carry notepads. Doug turned slightly. Lifted his hand. Scratched the bridge of his nose. That's all it took. Within seconds, they left. Later, Nora brought him another coffee. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "They're not from here." "Who?" Doug didn't answer. Instead, he took out a small metal object, no bigger than a thumb drive. "I found this near the track switch," he said. "Wasn't part of the system." Nora looked at it. "What is it?" "A loop trigger. Remote activated. Would have locked the rail if I hadn't pulled the switch." "Wait, are you saying—" "It wasn't an accident," Doug said quietly. "Someone wanted a derailment." He stood. "Which means someone's testing us." "Testing me." That night, Doug walked to the edge of town, to an old rail shed no one used anymore. Inside, a crate, marked with faded stencils. Property of U.S. Army, Engineer Corps. 1974, classified field tools. He opened it. Inside, blueprints, codes, a field radio. He turned the radio on. Static. Then, gray and actual. Active. Doug pressed the mic. "Still here. Track is live." Eyes open. Across the country, 5 different radios crackled. Retired men and women straightened in their chairs. One whispered, "He's awake again." Another, "God help whoever triggered him." Back in Marlow, the Rail Control Center got a hit on an encrypted signal near the switchyard. They didn't know what it meant. Doug did, because he'd once created it to track rogue sabotage. The pattern was unmistakable, and it had returned. Some warriors don't wear camouflage. They wear dust and time and carry blueprints instead of rifles. If someone in your life stayed ready long after others stopped watching, tell us who they are in the comments. Friday morning arrived with fog curling low over the rails. Doug Kinney was already there. Not feeding pigeons. Not sitting. This time, he was walking the track line, measuring the ballast with his boot, listening to vibrations, tapping bolts like they were tuning forks. Nora watched from the station office. "You're not just checking safety, are you?" she asked when she caught up. Doug looked at her. "No." She waited. And finally, he said it. "In 72, I built parts of this line under contract with the Army. By 74, I was overseas. Cambodia, Laos, places no one likes to talk about." He paused, then continued. "By 77, I was doing more than engineering. We didn't just build lines. We baited them, lured convoys, tracked sabotage groups, learned how to see weak points before they broke." He lifted the thumb-sized device again. "This? I designed its prototype. For defense. Now someone's using it for misdirection." Nora's voice was barely a whisper. "You think they're targeting civilians?" "I think they want to cause fear. In quiet places, where no one expects precision." Later that afternoon, Doug met with someone he hadn't seen in 40 years. Colonel Avery Nash. Retired. The two stood on opposite ends of the track outside Marlow Junction. "You shouldn't be out here," Avery said. "Neither should you," Doug replied. Avery handed him a folder sealed, marked in red. "Reactivation, Greyhound Ops." Doug opened it slowly. Inside were photos of 3 other stations. Different states. Same sabotage signatures. "Why now?" he asked. "Because you were never supposed to live this long," Avery said. "But now that you have, they're trying to erase every blueprint you ever made." Doug chuckled. "Dry? They should have started with the ones in my head." That night, he returned to the shelter. Packed a single bag. blueprints, 2 devices, the radio. He left the coat behind. Then he walked back to the station just before midnight and sat on the platform once more, waiting. Nora returned, this time with no coffee, just a quiet question. Are we safe? Doug answered without looking up. You are. For now. And finally, she asked the one question she hadn't dared. Why come back? He looked at her. Eyes sharp, not soft. Because I never left. I just waited for the next noise. If you know someone who never really left the watch, who stayed ready while the rest of us moved on, drop their initials in the comments. Let them know we see them. By Saturday, most of the town was talking. Not just about the near miss with the train, but about the man who'd prevented it. Kids asked their parents, was he really in the army? Teens Googled Greyhound ops, finding nothing but half-redacted forums and conspiracy threats. And the mayor? She ordered a safety audit of the entire rail system. But Doug Kinney wasn't interested in noise. He was watching vibrations. Literally. In the maintenance room beneath Platform 3, he installed a vibration gauge he'd once used to detect tunnel activity in Vietnam. It lit up that morning's soft, irregular pulses. Meaning? Movement. Near the switching grid. That afternoon, Nora returned to find him covered in dust, leaning against the breaker panel. You okay? She asked. Doug didn't answer right away. Then, they were here again. But smarter this time. No wires. Just weight sensors. Remote timed. He held up a square piece of black carbon plate. Pressure trigger. Industrial grade. Military issue. Not sold in stores. Nora stared. You're saying this wasn't just sabotage? I'm saying it was a message. He pocketed the device. And now I'm replying. That night, Doug called Curtis, another name from the Greyhound list. A systems man. Retired. Owned a body shop 2 counties over. Kurt, I need a reroute plan. Temporary shutdown. No questions. Curtis didn't hesitate. One condition. What? I get to stand next to you when you answer back. Doug gave a rare smile. Suit up. By 3 a.m., under cover of a routine track repair operation, Doug and Curtis were underground, installing something most people would never understand. Not a bomb. Not a trap. A dead man switch. A signal block that can isolate rogue frequencies and bounce them back, like sonar. Doug connected the final relay. Now if they come again, he said, we'll hear them first. The next morning, the switchboard at Marlow Junction lit up with a phantom signal. Then a second. Then nothing. False pings. Doug whispered, they're probing. Curtis nodded. Then we're close. Doug turned to him. They still have your back? Curtis didn't blink. You call Echo, and we'll cover the track from coast to coast. Later that night, Nora found a small schematic on her desk. No label. No sender. Just one word written across the top. Prevent. Some men don't retire, they repurpose. If you've ever seen someone turn quiet skills into life-saving actions, type built different in the comments. Some protect by knowing where to stand when things go wrong. By Monday, Doug was watching more than just rails. He was watching faces. A young man with 2 clean shoes, loitering by the vending machines for 2 hours. A woman who asked too many questions about switch codes. A backpack left unzipped on the wrong side of the bench. Each time, he logged it in a notebook. Not on paper, on carbon, pressure-reactive sheets he could burn in seconds. That night, he walked past the platform into the old tunnel. In the dark, he activated the relay system. A low pulse spread through the track network, inaudible to humans. But to machines like the ones used in military sabotage, it rang like a bell. The response came in 4 minutes. A ping. A repeat. Then a full string. Encrypted, but familiar. Doug whispered, they've moved to phase 2. He keyed his mic. Curtis. They're inside the system now. Prepare fallback. Curtis responded immediately. EchoNet is ready. Doug didn't smile. He just stepped back and activated Protocol Greyhound 7, platform lockdown simulation. Across town, the switchboard lights flickered briefly, but everything above ground seemed normal. Nora met Doug by the signal house. What are you testing? She asked. I'm not, he said. I'm confirming. That evening, a freight signal from out of district came through. Wrong code. Wrong timing. But before the station could respond, Doug was already pulling levers. Rerouted it to an empty side track. Train passed harmlessly. But inside the conductor's booth? Empty. No engineer. Just wiring. A decoy. A message. On the windshield, in duct tape. Still watching. Doug stared for a long time. Then turned to Nora. They're trying to draw me out. What will you do? Not what they expect. He left her with a sealed envelope, to be opened if I disappear. Some protectors don't sleep. They scan every signal, trace every vibration, and recognize every lie. If someone like that ever had your back, even once, drop a respect in the comments. That kind of awareness deserves our loudest silence. Tuesday, 4:32 a.m. Doug was already on platform 3 when they arrived. 3 men. Coordinated. Too clean for the hour. No luggage. No hesitation. They walked like they belonged, but they didn't smell like Marlowe. Doug didn't move. Didn't flinch. Just waited. The first man passed. Briefcase in hand. Doug noted the weight shift. Heavy enough to hold tools, not documents. The second scanned the junction tower. Third one whispered, switch grid confirmed. Doug stepped onto the track. Wrong station, he said. The men froze. The tallest stepped forward. You're Kinney. Doug nodded. You're late. We just want your codes. Doug smiled. You just lost your window. He pressed a small switch in his coat. Lights across the station blinked. Curtis stepped out from the control room. 2 others appeared at the far end of the platform, former Greyhound ops, all retired, all ready. You're surrounded, Doug said. You're not leaving. But the men didn't reach for weapons. They reached for radios. Too late. Doug's team jammed them. Then the town sheriff walked in quiet, calm. You've got 30 seconds to comply. The men were taken without incident. No one resisted. Because they knew. They hadn't walked into a train station. They'd walked into a trap built by the man who had once rerouted railroads under enemy fire. That afternoon, Doug didn't celebrate. He just sat by the pigeons, watching the track. Nora sat beside him. You caught them. No, Doug said. I reminded them. Of what? That some people never stop watching. Across the internet, the story went public. Not all of it. Just enough. Retired Army engineer foils sabotage plot at small town station. The comments lit up. Real ones move quiet. Someone find this man and give him every medal. This is why we sleep safe. If you believe there are protectors living quietly in plain sight, drop a shield emoji or the word below. Because their silence often shouts the loudest. Doug didn't stay for the ceremony. The mayor wanted a plaque, a medal, a day in his name. He declined it all. Instead, he left a letter on Nora's desk, sealed in a clear bag labeled, for when the station forgets again. Inside was a folded map, marked with safe zones, blind spots, and one line scribbled in pencil. Don't just watch. Remember. He walked the platform one last time. Stopped. Looked at the switch lever he'd once pulled to save 100 lives. Touched it gently. Then turned and disappeared into the morning mist. No goodbye. No headlines. Just echoes. That night, someone placed a small plaque beside the bench where Doug used to feed pigeons. It read, He left no noise. Only safety. And beneath it, still watching. If you've ever known someone who didn't need to be seen to protect everyone around them, someone who built safety with silence, tell us in the comments. We remember the quiet ones. If you like this story, please like and subscribe to the channel. Let YouTube promote stories of kindness.